Smiley face. So happy.
Should patent this dance because I feel like it's like the same
This
thing
one?
every time.
What do you call
just
that?
like with the waves. Out of the wave. I don't
The
think
wave?
that
I
dance
actually liked it
exists
better
yet.
when you put it called the waves with an S.
The
wave is like already the thing that the stadiums, right?
Yeah, well, when you do a trademark, you got to do like multiple versions of it. So I'll just include all those versions when I trademark it. Well, welcome back, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back to another episode of Happy Hour. I'm your host, Hayden Humphrey, and I am very excited for this particular episode because I am here with my good friend and colleague, fellow incredible coach, Meghan Smith. Meghan, how the heck are you?
I am pretty heckin' good.
Yes, say more. Tell us more.
You know, it's just one of those days. It's like, I don't have many worries today. Some days I have a lot of worries. I'm a kind of a fretful kind of gal sometimes, but today is just one of those days where like life's good, you know? I have nothing to complain about. I did some errands this morning. I did some work this afternoon. My kitchen's a mess and I don't really care. It's like
just hanging out.
I kind of don't recognize myself today. I'm like, who is this chick?
No frets. No frets to be found.
Not a lot of frets.
Anywhere.
Low fret.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Meghan, for the folks watching who don't know you, tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to.
Well, I mean, what do I want you to know about me? I'm an Aquarius. I think that's important for you to know.
That's what I was going to ask. So
for those of you dying to know, I actually recently had an astrological reading done, and I'm like a super Aquarius, like a real serious.
Oh, they make distinctions? Like it's like
minor
Aquarius.
I made that up, but like I got a lot of Aquarius and a lot of houses and all the stuff. So
nice.
That's what you need to know about me. I'm a coach like you.
Yes.
And that's how we met through the old coaching world. And I'm a mom. I got 2 kids, Hattie, 5, and she's outside watching a show. So she may appear at any time. And Ernie's 2. So those are my kids. And I really coach predominantly moms, actually. That's kind of my bailiwick, moms and lawyers. I used to be a lawyer. So I also coach a lot of lawyers. And some of my clients are even lawyers and mothers, which is like the super client. Yeah.
Double whammy.
So that's my professional life. You know, I live in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Represent. Am I your first Canadian on this?
Second.
Ooh.
Sorry. Brendan. It was Brendan. He was the first one.
Where does Brendan live?
He lives in Canada somewhere.
Oh, that narrows it down. I think I know him, actually.
Sorry, Brendan.
Pretty sure I know him. All right. Well, I'm sure he's lovely. So I'm your first female Canadian. That's what I'm hearing.
Perfect. Exactly. Yes.
That's me. Yeah. I live in British Columbia. Have you ever been up here? I'm taking it not based on your geography.
I've been to Canada one time. When I was 19, I went to Windsor, Canada.
Oh, yes.
Right across the border.
Yes.
So, you know, drank some beverages
and
played some poker.
Yes, all the things you weren't allowed to do in the States. Yeah, got it. So I live in like Pacific Northwest Canada, which is very different than Windsor. It's beautiful. It's green. There's rainforest. There's orcas. There's otters. There's like, you know, it's beautiful here.
That's awesome. I'm very jealous. Chicago's somewhat green, but
well, it's a big city, right? Yeah. It's like
I'll have to come visit.
This behind me is a bed. So if you ever need a place to stay.
Thank you.
Right here.
That's very good to know.
Yeah, right here. That's your bed.
I will most definitely be there. Well, Meghan, the way that I love to start off this show is with a question. And for those of you watching, also please feel free to drop your answers to this question in the comments section below. But Meghan, what's making you happy right now?
Oh my goodness, what's making me happy right now? Well, first of all, this drink that I'm drinking is making me happy. I'm drinking.
What is it?
It's called a shrub. Have you ever heard of a shrub?
Like a
Well, I know
plant?
you've heard of a plant, but this is not that shrub. I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
drinking a shrub. I actually don't know like the genus of the name of this, and I don't. It might just be like a local Victoria thing. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
This is gonna sound weird. You're gonna think I'm
Yeah.
crazy, but
Okay.
it's like a vinegar based drink.
Interesting. Is it
Right?
alcoholic or is
No, no,
it just
no,
okay?
no. I don't drink. So
Mhm.
for me, I'm always looking for like awesome, fun, non-alcoholic drinks.
Mhm.
So this is locally made, and it's like you drink. Do you know kombucha?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So it tastes kind of like kombucha, but it's like a cordial. So it's like a concentrate. So I've got like a
Mm.
bottle of it, and then I pour like this much in, and then I mix it with soda water.
Oh,
And this one's ginger mango flavored, and it is so refreshing. It is so good.
that actually sounds really good.
It's delicious. And my husband, who doesn't usually like whatever concoctions, because I love kombucha, and he's like, oh, this is disgusting. My husband even likes this. And I have not told him that it's got vinegar in it because I think that once he knew that, he wouldn't be able to untaste the vinegar and then he wouldn't drink it anymore.
So just keep slipping it in there.
I'm just going to not tell him.
Don't
Although
tell
I
him.
might have to tell him at some point because he's starting to drink all my shrub. And so I might actually have to tell him.
It's gone too far.
Get my shrub back all to myself. I'm a bit greedy that way. Anyhow, so that's making me pretty happy. I've gone through a lot of shrub in the last little while. What else is making me happy? So just this past week, so I don't know what's going on. I don't like totally know what's happening in the States with respect to like your social distancing and all of that. So we've opened up a little bit here. So I live in Victoria, British Columbia, which is on Vancouver Island. And we haven't actually had a new case of coronavirus on the island in weeks. Cool. So we're opening up a bit here. My kids are back in daycare and school. That's making me very happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So last week was the first week where like since March 10th that my kids were in some kind of care. Mm-hmm. So my husband and I both run our own businesses, which is, got lots of great things about it. But, having two kids around, two young kids while you're trying to run two businesses at home has been a lot. So it's pretty nice to have some time to ourselves in our house without our kids back. And what's really making me happy about that is I'm actually not trying to like cram as much work as possible into that time. I'm actually trying to enjoy it with other things besides work that I love to do, like read my book in the hammock or take a shower in the middle of the day.
Also important.
Which, for those of you with little kids watching, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say that that's a real treat.
That's so awesome. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here in the next 2 to 3 weeks with COVID and cases, because there's just been, there's rightfully so, there's been a lot of protesting and a lot of, people gathering in very large groups. And I think just like given the social climate of everything that's happening, like people have not forgotten about coronavirus, but it's just like this thing where it's like, hey, there's this more pressing thing that's, now taking up everyone's attention. So I feel like a lot of the way that people were relating to COVID, like very, for the most part, like honoring social distancing and, doing that kind of stuff. I think actually a lot of that has like kind of like evaporated in the last like 2 weeks. So I see people out now at like restaurants and patios, like without masks on, like people, like a lot more people walking around. I'm like, like it's still a thing. Like it's like still very much so a very, real situation.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen either. Although like they also say that in the summer months, it's likely to like fade out a little bit anyway. So we don't know, right?
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Chapman Whitaker says this is very true here in Chicago right now.
Thanks for watching, Anna.
Yeah.
He knows I'm my good friends. Meghan, a very closely related follow-up question.
Yeah.
What are you most grateful for today?
Today, you know what I'm most grateful for today is my coach. I've been doing some really cool work with her and something that we distinguished last Tuesday. I've really been practicing this week, and it's made a massive, massive difference in I started off this call saying like, I'm not a fretless person. My default is like actually to fret quite a bit about things. So I've been thinking a lot today about how grateful I am for her and the work we do together and just who she is for me. She's, in many ways like a soulmate to me. She's amazing. So super grateful for her. I'm really grateful for my husband today too. He was just playing with my daughter outside for like 2 hours. This ridiculous game where they put this little stuffy on the fence and then they use all the stuffies to try to knock it off. And they've got like a scoreboard going and they build a set of bleachers. And
nice.
Yeah, he's a really, really good dad. And I'm really grateful that because I don't actually like to play that much with my kids. I do. I love them in many ways. But like playing, like I have my patience for like the dumb games. I'm like, okay, this is silly now. Can we do something else? Can we like read a book?
Even imagine.
Yeah. So I'm grateful that he's it's like, how about we just like quietly reflect here? Do you want to do that? Should we quietly reflect and have a conversation about something? No? You don't want to tell me about your day? Okay.
Except there's one thing that young children love. Sitting and reflecting.
And having really like ontological conversations about life. They love it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
I would
loves to play.
Yeah. Because the thing I hear in that too, even what you shared earlier, was like giving yourself more space to just like be and breathe. And I would say I'm definitely grateful for something very similar, like giving myself more in the way of well-being, like how I take care of myself. And I have been really focused recently on like building in better structures to be able to show up at my highest and best on a day-to-day basis. And what I have realized is my emotional resilience is way higher. It's like through the roof. Like before, something would happen. Like I had something today happen with a client and it totally like normally would totally take me out. And like the whole rest of the day, I'd be like freaked out and anxious, and it would go into the next day probably, and then it would also affect the next day.
I'm a terrible coach. Should I quit coaching? I'm
exactly.
They're going to tell all their friends never to work with me.
Yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I've just been able to like catch it in the moment and be like, I don't have to go down this path. Like I can actually just like let this stop right here and wake up tomorrow morning. I've been taking on completion every single morning for the past 30 days. And it's been a total game changer.
Game changer. Good for you. That's amazing.
So very appreciative for completion and
totally.
well-being.
And it's kind of the same thing, right? Like what you're saying is like completion is part of your well-being now.
Totally. Yeah. So much so. Cool. The next part of this show that we move into, Megan, is one of my favorite parts of this show. It's the random question of the day.
Ooh.
Megan, are you ready for your random question?
Yeah, do I get to spin a wheel?
Hey. It's a random question generator.
Oh, it's been spun.
So I'll click the button. Yes. Oh, here we go. I'm going to click the button because this wasn't the one that came up first. So here we go. Megan, I am generating your question now.
I like that.
Megan, what have you found more helpful than you ever imagined it could be?
Oh my God. I like the people watching question before. This is like a really big question. What have I found more helpful than you ever imagined it could be? Well, I want to say coaching, but I already talked about coaching and like my relationship to my coach. So, but truly, like sometimes it blows my mind how helpful it is. What
your husband?
Yes, definitely. Although I imagined he could be pretty helpful. Sometimes he could be more helpful than I imagined he could be. What have I found more helpful than you ever imagined it could be? Oh my God, this is a hard
like
question.
A tool or a strategy or something that you bought.
Right. Like my favorite kitchen gadget or something.
Sure.
I definitely like my lemon squeezer. It's very, very helpful. But you know what? I have it. You know what is more helpful? And I am going with like a kitchen appliance here than I ever could have imagined is my air fryer, my Actifryer.
Ooh.
Do you know about this?
I think my dad has one and he says very good things about it. I personally have never air fried myself though.
Well, definitely don't air fry yourself.
Oh, is that not what you're supposed to do with
Yeah.
air fryer.
No. It's not like a tanning bed, although it kind of resembles one. It's like a tanning bed for food. It's like you just put it in there. It's awesome. It's like you put it in this like vessel, you close the lid, you press the button, and it like does your food in this thing and moves it around. It's like crispy and yummy, and it only uses like a tablespoon of oil. And I use it like probably 3 times a week. It's amazing. I love
I'd be all over that. I was like, if it didn't require like a ton of like oil or grease.
Not a lot of oil or grease. It's like one pot. It cooks chicken. It makes it really crispy. Like just put a little bit of like maybe just a tiny bit of flour or cornstarch on your chicken, some garlic powder, and
I'm gonna have to
some salt and pepper. Like, it makes a good stir fry. My favorite thing to make in it is like sausage, peppers, onion, and broccoli.
That sounds amazing.
And then I just put it over some rice, and Bob's your uncle.
I'm gonna be looking it up on Amazon after this.
I also love my Instant Pot, and I don't know if it was like a showdown between my Instant Pot and the Active Fryer.
Who would win?
I can't, and I won't answer that question.
I refuse to answer that question.
For another happy hour.
I love it. All right, let's do one more question here, Megan. This is if you're comfortable answering this, or you could just talk about a financial mistake.
I know what my biggest financial mistake was.
Yes.
Going to law school.
Easy. You got it done.
That's like kind of joking, kind of not, but like I actually don't think going to law school was a mistake. I went through a phase where I was like, that's a big mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I'm an idiot. What was I thinking? And now I get that it was part of my journey, and it's taught me so much, even though I'm not practicing law anymore. Yeah. So I kind of wish I could have saved that money, but hey, I didn't.
Yeah. What do you think were like for you interpersonally, like, what do you think were the big, this is a large question, but like the big takeaways for you where you're like, hey, it was worth it for that reason?
For law school?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I could have really, I think it's the thing that had me bankrupt. That's a very coaching word. So like had me really expose the full extent of my worthiness problem. I'm not sure that I ever would have uncovered it. That I was like the extent to which I attached my worth to my performance.
Yeah.
It was like it's like it's like the lawyering is performance based in a lot of senses, and that's why I undertook it, and I don't think I could have seen that taking on anything else. So I don't think I got that lesson until recently. Like I had to go through all of that, and now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I thought that would make me feel worthy finally if I got a law degree.
Yeah.
And of course it didn't, because it doesn't work that way, but I wouldn't have been able to see that how it was tied together like that without that experience.
Yeah. That's so cool. Cause I feel like a lot of people I had a very similar experience when I was working in sales. And I sort of had this like aha moment where I was like, why am I doing this? But I feel like for a lot of folks, they get caught in this like in between space where it's like not like their unworthiness problem or whatever flavor of it that they have, like the environment's not so bad that it makes it unbearable, where they get to the point where they're like, screw this. It's like just manageable enough that like, they're like,
you can still blame it on your boss. You can still blame it on whatever, right? Like totally. And that's like, that's why like there was nowhere for me to hide in law. It was either like become an alcoholic to cover up my like massive amounts of pain or get out of law truly for me, so I think that's the thing that I had to go through. I also think there's some other things, I think I learned, what else did I learn from law school? I mean, certainly like critical thinking skill, like, it is a very good education, how our political system works, how our laws work, there's lots of cool stuff that I learned. Just a very expensive way to learn that. I probably could have learned somewhere else, but I also made great friendships. I wouldn't trade it. It took me I got to practice at a New York law firm for a summer. I got to I studied for a semester in Singapore. I just had some really wonderful experiences, met some wonderful people.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing those pieces, like about your experience and what you were up to. And it's actually a perfect segue as we move into the next portion of the show, which is intimate questions to get to know you.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask you some questions.
Let's do it.
And we'll see what comes up. So the first question, Megan, is what kind of socks do you wear most frequently, and do they match?
So I don't wear socks if I can avoid it. That's the first thing I'll say. If I can avoid not wearing socks, I will. And then the second thing that I'll say is I like a thin but stretchy sock.
Mm.
You know, I don't like when it's thin, but it's like resistant to stretching. It's just not comfortable. And then I don't like if it's like too stretchy or bulky, you know? So thin and stretchy. If it's an athletic sock, I do like to splurge on those and get like a Lululemon or something like that. And I do insist on my socks matching, but only that they're like the same brand and cut. Like if I had the exact same socks and one was blue and one was red, that wouldn't bother me. But I wouldn't like take like two different socks and match them, because then you have a different feeling on each foot.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Is there something about socks that you said you try and go sockless if you can avoid it? Is there something about that?
I think I partially laziness. I like to like slip on a shoe and just like go out of the house, you know? I live in a climate where like you can get away with sandals a lot of the year, you know? I do wear socks in the winter. So it's mostly a laziness thing, I would say. And like, it's just kind of restricting and hot and sweaty, which I think is why it's important to invest in a good pair that like let your feet breathe.
I agree.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question. Actually, is your house a shoes on house or a shoes off house?
It's a hybrid, I would say.
It's a little bit of both. Yeah.
I mean, I would say like the most of the time we take our shoes off, but I have no issue. You know, if someone came in my house and was like, kept their shoes on, if it wasn't wintertime and it wasn't raining. I mean, it rains a lot here, so it would be pretty rude to walk in someone's house with your wet, rainy feet and like walk around. But if it's summertime, like, I don't care, keep your shoes on. It's
whatever.
Fun. And we're in and out. Anna, good question. I always thought it was so funny on TV, because we get like, as a kid growing up, we watched mostly American TV, right? On shows, they always had their shoes on. It's like not a very Canadian thing to keep your shoes on in the house at all. Like you can mostly take your shoes off. But for us, it's mostly because I'm like in and out of the yard a bit. Like our kids play in the yard. I'm not going to take my shoes off every time. Sometimes it's like 5 hours later and I'm like, oh, I'm still wearing shoes. I should take these off now.
Nice. In my apartment, we declared it a no shoe zone.
No shoes at all, right?
Yeah, which I'm appreciative for. So I also am like you. I'm like, you know what, no socks if I can avoid it. And it's mostly hardwood in the apartment, so it's like all the dirt and stuff gets picked up. So
So are you a slippers guy? I'm wearing slippers right now.
Depends. If it's cold enough, then yes, because my extremities get cold very easily. Like my hands and my feet especially get very, very cold. So sometimes if I'm like sitting at my desk, I gotta put the slippers on.
Put the slips on. I love slippers. I love slippers enough that I often will bring them with me when I go places.
Really?
I went over to a friend's the other night to hang out, and I BYOS'd.
I didn't know that was a thing, but this is I have to start doing this.
And I'm really appreciative when I go to someone's house. I know a few people like this actually that have a little basket of slippers at their door. And I know that we get into like, oh, like you're putting your feet into something that someone else had on. So I know it's a bit weird, but I kind of like it.
That's like next level hospitality.
Agreed.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
Megan, the next question here is, what time do you wake up?
I wake up when my kids wake me up usually. It varies. I go through phases where I set an alarm and get up and do the whole like, I'm going to do yoga and I'm going to journal. These days we're like very go with the flow. We get up when our kids get up, which right now is like usually around 7:30. They wake us up. My daughter comes downstairs and like climbs into bed with us, and my son yells from his crib. Yells our names for a while, so he's like our little alarm clock.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I would imagine that it's changed too since
Yeah.
school was kind of like out and everything.
Yeah. Well, for a while there, we were sleeping at like one morning, our kids slept till 8. And we were like, whoa, why don't they do this on the weekends? So we definitely we got into a more lax sort of routine.
Mhm.
But even now that school's back, I just feel like, I don't know, we're not fretting about it. Like my daughter actually has to be at school at an exact time, whereas my son's in daycare. So like, it doesn't really matter when we drop him off. It's like,
Mhm.
whatever. So things are just kind of easy breezy. Like they tend to have sorted themselves up and they're waking up a little bit earlier, and we don't set an alarm, which is awesome.
Nice.
We have
It
human
just
alarms.
yeah, it just sounds nice and easy, going with the flow.
It is. What time do you
Which
wake
is
up?
perfect. I wake up at 6. I'm
An
trying
alarm?
to, yes, although I want to, well, so I've started to get like super consistent, and I'm trying to get more consistent with like going to bed at 10 and waking up at 6. And right now I set an alarm to wake up, but I would love to get to the point where I don't have to set an alarm, and just like my body's so used to it that I just like wake up at 6-ish. And I kind of like that too, because then it's like, you know, if I wake up with an alarm, half the time it's like I'm groggy and I'm like not really ready to get up, versus if I just like get up whenever I'm up, then I'm like,
Your body's more like,
much
hey,
more.
let's do this thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of like a long-term game, but in the meantime, you're using an alarm
Exactly. Yeah.
to remind your body.
Exactly. I'm like experimenting with it, just easing myself into
So
it.
what do you do when you get up at 6?
When I get up at 6, so yes, I do. Recently though, I wake up at 6. I was going and working out immediately, but what I realized was I was feeling very weak and like fatigued after that. And so now I wake up in the morning and I read for 30 minutes while I like eat something, and then I go work out, and that's been super awesome. And then I come back and I eat breakfast while I do completion, and then I usually start like checking emails and stuff at like 8:30. And it's like so perfect. I've been like iterating and like experimenting and trying new things, and I just feel like it's just been this really nice.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Now most days when I wake up and I'm like getting ready to start my day, I'm like up here, like
that's awesome,
ready to go.
I do notice that when I do get into a routine of getting up before my kids and having that time to myself, I do find that my mornings feel much more powered up. They feel much more intentional. They feel much more like I've already put a little bit in my tank.
Yeah.
So I like that sort of like, how did you refer to it earlier? Like your capacity or like emotional capacity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. So I do. And I just like to stay up late.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I like to like, because my kids go to bed at like 8:30. And so there's like this window after my kids go to bed that's just mine. And I really like that time too. So it's this balance between like, you know, and I still don't know like how much sleep do I actually need? What's optimal for me? I feel like I still don't really know that. So I go through phases. Right now I'm like, this phase we're in is fine. My kids wake me up. We have a nice little time. It's fine.
It's working out.
It is.
The last question I have for you, Megan, last intimate question to get to know you is, do you have a go-to strategy for dealing with colds?
Yes, I do. I haven't had one in a while because, well, I haven't left my house in a while. So, you know, it's hard to get a cold when no one goes anywhere. So, well, I'll take oil of oregano pretty religiously when I'm sick, and emergency. So I'll like mega dose with like oil of oregano, emergency, and cold FX. I have no idea if any of it works. It doesn't really matter to me.
I feel like it's a mental game.
It's totally a mental game, right? It's like, it doesn't really matter if it works or not. There's a placebo effect, if you will, and that's good enough for me. And I mean, my default is to like power through a cold and just completely ignore the fact that my body's like, please rest, please rest, please rest, please rest. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to do all the things I need to do. And then I'm going to collapse in tears at the end of the day. So that's my usual go-to. My new strategy is to actually try to like listen to my body, take rest, clear my schedule, and actually just like allow my body to process the sickness.
Nice.
But that's sometimes I'm like in denial about how sick I am, right? I'm like, I'm fine. I just have sniffles. And so it's really like, it's a practice for me to really listen to my body and say, I got to rest now. That's what my
That's
body
super
needs.
important.
Yeah.
Giving yourself what you need.
Yeah. Totes.
Love that.
Yeah. It's not easy. It's not always easy.
Yeah. It's practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's like the thing that comes out of my mouth probably more than anything else. It's a practice.
It's a practice.
It's a practice. It's practice.
Just practice.
It's fine. It's just practice. Well, Megan, we've reached the second to last portion of this show, which is the quote of the day.
Okay.
And the quote of the day today is, life is not a problem to be solved, but an adventure to be lived. John Eldridge.
Preach, John.
Yes.
Eldridge. Who is John
Comments,
Eldridge?
Reflections. I actually don't know, but I would love to hear your thoughts while I look up who this gentleman is.
Please do some fact checking. What are my thoughts? I mean, that's a great way to live life. It's still going to have quote unquote problems. Like every problem is an opportunity for adventure, right? An opportunity for something. And so if you relate to it like that, then it's no longer a problem. It's just what is.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that comes up for me around that, especially with like the pandemic and all of that, it's like, I think that we tend to think that we're somehow entitled to life going a certain way for us. Right? Like we're entitled to go to restaurants. We're entitled to like feel safe. And then we are entitled to certain human rights. Of course we are, as humans, human decency and all that, but we're not entitled to much beyond that, right?
Yeah.
We're not entitled to a system. We're not entitled to a society that we're not entitled to laws. We've built those because they work for us. Sometimes they're not working for a lot of people right now, but we're not actually entitled to any of that. We've just built them to try to make sense of this crazy world that we live in. And so it's really like life is an adventure, and we actually can allow the adventure if we let go of this idea that we're entitled to have life go a certain way. Because if we feel entitled, then everything's a problem if it gets in the way of that entitlement.
Totally. Yeah. Well, what I hear in that too is like a call for agency, or like a call for presence with whatever ends up happening. Like just noticing, practicing non-judgment around circumstances and feelings. Exactly. But it's actually interesting because that's been a big thing for me recently, especially like I've always had a very interesting relationship with my feelings and my emotions. And what I notice is that I put a lot of judgment around when I don't feel great, or when I don't feel 110%, and when I'm not super motivated, and when I don't want to do something, I like judge that. Like I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should feel excited to do this. I should feel good. I should, should. And when I remove the should, and I just practice non-judgment, and I just practice noticing the thing, then it's like, it's okay. Like, then it's like, okay. And then I'm sad, or like, or I'm not feeling great, or like whatever it is, but I can just almost like enjoy whatever is happening and be with whatever's happening instead of looking at it as a problem.
Right. Because you're not entitled to anything else. You're not entitled to not have any feelings. Right. It's like, sorry, it's not what you signed. That's not the contract you signed when you showed up on this earth. You came with feelings.
I have to revisit that contract.
Yes.
Megan, we have reached the last part of our show, which is parting words. So do you have any parting words for the folks listening? Any words of wisdom, gems that you'd leave us with?
Oh man, that's a lot of pressure to leave you with gems. Just try to enjoy your day. I don't know. I I think it goes. John Eldridge had it right. Life's an adventure. What adventure will you choose to enjoy today with the situation you do find yourself in? What's the lemonade you'll make with your lemons? I don't know. That's not my wisest words, but it'll do.
Was that John? I think that's a John Eldridge quote too.
I think so. Make lemonades. What lemons are you going to make? What lemonade are you going to make today?
Exactly.
Did we ever figure out who he is?
Yes, he is a author, counselor, and lecturer
Oh,
I read a book by him called Wild at Heart. It's like I'm not Christian. I'm not like a practicing Christian, but it's a Christian take on masculinity.
oh, cool.
Which I think is where I got the quote. So
Is he still with us?
yes, okay. I had to check. I had to double check Wikipedia. It says is, so still alive. So
yeah. And like, it's not like the book you read is like modern. He's not like like a old timey philosopher guy. He's he's like modern take on things.
Exactly.
That's cool. Okay, well, that's it. We're done.
That's all. Yes, Megan, I so appreciate you.
Okay.
And for coming on the show and sharing. Thank you so much.
Okay. We'll have to do this again sometime.
I love it. And for everyone watching, thank you so much for being here. I will see y'all Friday.
Bye.
Peace out.